It's the Law with Morelli Churko. Joining me on this edition is Elizabeth Harris. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Howie. How are you today?
Great. Nice to see you again. Your area of practice is motor vehicle accidents, employment law, and what we're going to start with today is occupier's liability. So the first question is, what happens if you're injured on someone else's property or in their business?
Well, the first thing you want to do is make sure your injuries aren't severe, or get an idea about what your future holds from a physical perspective. The legal aspect should, in my experience, always come second. Your own health comes first. But then once you've sort of sorted out what has happened to you when you've injured yourself, go see a lawyer. The lawyer will be able to advise you on next steps and whether you have a claim against the property owner or business owner on whose premises you were hurt. There are time limits involved in how long you've got to make a claim, so don't wait too long. Limit is 2 years, so you've got some time, but it's always better to act sooner rather than later.
What can a business owner do to protect themselves from being sued?
The law in BC with respect to occupier's liability is governed by a piece of legislation called the Occupiers Liability Act. And that legislation says that as long as an employer takes reasonable steps and has a reasonable system of inspection in place, they're not going to be liable if somebody injures themselves on their premises. So that means two things. First of all, the occupier, meaning that could be the owner, it could be the tenant, it could be a contractor, has to have a system of inspection in place. And second of all, that system has to be reasonable. So it's not enough, for example, to say that if somebody slips on the stairs, well, when people come in to work in the morning, it's safe for them coming up, so it should be safe for guests or customers as well. The employer actually has to have a system where those steps are inspected to make sure that the treads are tacked down, to make sure that they're clear of ice and snow. If they don't even have that system in place, they're going to be found responsible. That system has to be reasonable. So again, it's not enough to say that while our system that we have is that employees check when they come to work, that's not going to be found to be reasonable. Particularly in climates where there's ice and snow, there has to be a more regular inspection done. Happens all the time with grocery stores. They have to have regular sweeps, and those sweeps or inspections have to be documented.
What should a property or business owner do if someone is injured on their premises?
First thing they should do is contact their insurer. Very likely, their property insurance will cover claims for personal injury advanced by customers. Make sure that there is coverage. And generally speaking, the insurer will then appoint counsel to defend. So that's step one. Step two, and that almost happens at the same time, is they should be gathering any type of evidence that they've got with respect to how the incident happened. So if there's CCTV on the premises, they should be securing that tape for probably 2 hours before the incident and an hour or so afterwards. Even if the incident itself isn't captured on the CCTV, sometimes you'll be able to get other evidence or documents that will help you defend a claim for personal injury. For example, it may capture an employee doing a visual or physical inspection of the area. The other thing that the employer should do is get witness statements from independent people who have seen the incident happen, and from employees who either saw it, attended to the victim afterwards, or were responsible for doing the safety sweeps.
Are there still businesses that don't have closed-circuit television? And if they don't, should they?
That's a good question. I expect that there are many. Yes, I think they should have CCTV. Now, there's going to be privacy concerns, so the business is going to want to advise their employees that they're installing CCTV. The CCTV tapes can't be installed in certain areas. Obviously, washrooms are out of the question. But public areas such as lobbies, cashier desks, electronic departments in department stores, areas where there's a high risk of theft, and front and rear entrances are good areas both to guard against theft and property loss, but also for personal injury claims.
Anything else we should know about occupier's liability?
If you've got a question after this interview, then call a lawyer, somebody who knows something about the area, and they'll be happy to give you some general advice, if not specific advice.
Elizabeth, thanks for dropping by.
Thanks, Howie.
Elizabeth Harris from Morelli Churko on this edition of It's the Law.